very easy to say pick up, but once you are handed over the diagnosis, it's quite challenging. You know, the way it's done in the HIV space where you have pre-counseling before the screening and all that was never done for me. It was in a situation where actually I really wanted to donate blood to somebody. I was part of the blood donation drive, so we needed to donate blood. And so I presented myself, and at that point I was told I had hepatitis B. And so it was quite challenging because I remember that event. I'm not quite sure how that event ended because I was thrown into some kind of darkness. And it took me almost a year to get out of that shock. So I listened carefully to Professor Charles when you were talking about some of these determinants of hepatitis B and how these things impact. These are not just mere statistics. These are not just mere presentations. These are real, okay? And yes, you could present them and then you might not be able to really appreciate how heavy these things are, but until you find yourself in such a situation. So that was the situation for me. And to complicate the matter, it looks like I was all alone in this whole space. You know, knowledge was quite poor, information was terrible. You go on the internet and you see a lot of scary things, negative things. And I must, at this point, thank the Hepatitis B Foundation because at the time, it was when I made contact with the Hep B Foundation, my life turned around. And everything started taking shape from that point. So since then, I started using my own personal lived experience to help people who are living with hepatitis B to, find their voice, I jokingly say that once you are diagnosed with hepatitis B, it's like you have a new passport, it depends on how you use the passport, okay? And so I decided to, use that passport to help people, bring people out of the dark. I've experienced a couple of stigma, but that was when things were really tough, because at that time I didn't understand the viral hepatitis that much, and so maybe lately I've experienced, I didn't know, because I think I've grown to a point where that doesn't touch me anymore. So rather, I like to share my spirit. I like to share my status to people. So when I do that, you will not be able to stigmatize again. So let me just give you one of the instances. I remember when I was called to talk about hepatitis in one of the in a program in my state. And I remember the organizer, very early that morning called me and told me, "Prince, please don't forget to put on the long sleeves." So I was wondering why. I couldn't ask him directly why the long sleeves, so I had to ask, may I know what color of the long sleeves? Would that be the dress code? He said, no. It's not, you can't put any color. You have hepatitis B, you'll be making contact with others. So, you will sweat and so that you don't, pass the virus. I said, oh, that moment I changed my topic. And then what I was supposed to talk about, I changed it to stigma and discrimination, and also poor knowledge of viral hepatitis. In fact, I centered the talk on how not to transmit hepatitis B. So I remember after the presentation, he came to me and told me he was sorry, that he thought that hepatitis B could pass from one person to another by sweat. I said, it was because of you I changed the topic. And he said, I did well. That helps. And he believed that a couple of persons in the room that day learned one or two. And so, you see, these things happen subtly without even us knowing these things. But I can imagine if that was said to me, maybe the year I was diagnosed, that would have hit me seriously. Many persons might not be able to come out of the stigma. I know I've lost a friend to hepatitis B, and you see, it hits us differently, and so when we look at these issues, you know, I don't know the best way to really let you know that this stigma is real, but all I can say is that it is very real. I've had to listen to people from my state, because when you present yourself as a voice, people who are living with hepatitis B ordinarily wouldn't want to come out, so will begin to gravitate towards you. Okay, and I get a lot of them come to me and then they tell me they applied for a job and they did well, and some of them even started the job, and at the point they request for hepatitis B screening. Once it turned out positive, the next morning, for those who have passwords to log in, passwords will be disabled. Some of them, their uniforms will be taken away. So a lot of things happen. And so it's quite challenging, very difficult, and that's why I appreciate the organizers and appreciate this session, because whatever we talk about, we can talk about all we know about hepatitis, but the very important part is the mental health of these people who are living with hepatitis B. And that is even complicated by the fact that we can't even access medication easily. Second, you can't even access diagnostics easily. And where you can access, very expensive. And so it leaves you with, where Professor Charles was talking about, the person who said, why should I invest in my life again when I know that in the end you die? I think I had that thought too, As a matter of fact, at the point where, the time when I was diagnosed, I was preparing for marriage. And I had to tell my fiancé then that I think we would have to call on this thing, because I wasn't quite sure how the hepatitis B would be, because I was concerned about her own health, not mine, really. Because for mine, I think I gave up so much. I didn't want to, put someone else's life on the line. So I wasn't very sure how that was. And again, she is one of my strongest strengths. That day I remember when I told her, let's call up this thing, and she told me there must be a way out of this, and that really stirred me up. Living with, when you have people who are living with hepatitis B around you, just one line, one statement can do the magic. Just one statement of encouragement can turn the person's life around. And just one statement of stigma can send the person down. And so I'm encouraging every one of us to do that. If you have anyone who is living with hepatitis B, please support. Thank you very much.